So we're just gluing both surfaces, the cordon and the brickwork, which allows the glue to stick an awful lot better. What we can see here is we've got a steel post coming up supporting the second story of this house, which is a bit unusual, but that steel post comes down and bolts onto the side of the slab, which compresses the cordon down, which doesn't allow us to pull it out all the way to the edge of the brickwork as we should for our stage 2. So the corner gets cut in as it usually would. We cut in from the end of the cordon down to the back of the brickwork that runs along this wall. And when we cut this corner in underneath, we cut into the back of the brickwork. That allows the excess to fold in underneath. And when we cut this one in over the top, the two cuts are as far apart as they can be from each other, so we've still got plenty of cordon underneath them all. It also allows the cordon, keeping in mind that there's a steel post on this one, to sit relatively flat across their brickwork. And then we can put some tape over our overlaps to hold it in place. You'll see later how it looks when we have to do sections without the steel post, which make it a lot easier. Now we can continue through, or we can patch each one as we go. It's up to you, but we're going to patch these ones as we go to save us coming back. Glue over the top surface of the bricks and the cordon. Keeping in mind we want a 50mm overlap onto our existing cordon. So use a strip of cordon wide enough to give you that 50mm overlap. Now this piece gets lined up depending on the mortar joins that you can see. They've got fairly round joints underneath these, so the mortar join's not going to be too far back in the brickwork. We should line this up so that it's flush with that external mortar join, and running your hand over the top sticks it down to the glue underneath fairly easily. And again, taping our overlap. Keep in mind that this is the finished product as far as cordon's concerned, so it needs to be spot on. We don't want to see orange cordon sticking out all the way through their brickwork. We also don't want to have the cordon too far back because it can allow concealed entry up through the brickwork. Gluing both surfaces of the bricks again, the brick and the outer edge of the cordon. Now if we have a close look underneath this door sill, you can see we don't have a lot of room. So we want to take our cordon either back into the cavity, or if we can't get it in there, if the seal is too tight, then we can just smooth the cordon straight down onto the brickwork. That gives them a flat surface to lay on top of. And then by taking our cordon cutter and putting it on an angle, laying it over the face of the brick and guiding the bottom of the cutter along the brick, we can cut the edge of the cordon back inside that brick edge. The important thing is to get the cordon patches with 100mm overlap back onto the existing cordon and glue and tape them down. Down behind that, there's a steel post. So behind this piece of plasterboard, this is the bottom bracket for a steel post that they've bolted through the side of the slab. Now the good news is that they've left the cordon behind this. They haven't cut the cordon off, which allows us to pull this up, and it means we have to patch onto the brickwork at the front, but we don't have any holes through our cordon that we have to seal up. So this instance is the way it should be left, but when it gets cut open is when they may have to remove them to allow you to patch them up properly. We've got our internal corner. Internal corners, when we install them, we fold it through in one piece. So we form it into a triangle that rolls off the edge of the slab in our perimeter, which means that our cordon for all internal perimeters rolls through in one piece, and we cut all our external corners and overlap them on the perimeter. When we're sticking the cordon down to the brickwork, we need to make sure we stick the underneath piece down first. Put that into place, and then we can glue the piece over the top. Spray glue onto all the surfaces we're sticking together, and you can spray glue as far as the straight run goes. So anywhere that the cordon's in one piece, so from one external corner usually to the next, drop your tins of glue and pull the cordon off the wall on your way back. Now, again, we've got a situation here where the door's quite close to the bottom of the, or to the top of the brick course. So we're going to have to get the cordon down into the cavity at the back. And it's usually able to be folded over the top, and we end up with a nice flat joint across our brickwork. Any excess cordon in the cavity at the back, we just tape our overlaps. Now under this door sill, we're going to try to pull the cordon back into the cavity. Unfortunately, I think it's going to take more time than it's worth, so we're just going to stick it down to the top again and cut it off as we did on the last one. Once we get past our doorway, we can try to manipulate the cordon further back into the cavity to help us get in position we need to when we get to the external corner. And when we're laying down the underneath piece, we keep it flat across the brickwork, and we cut from the end of our cordon back in to the point where the cordon lays flat against the bricks, and the excess cordon gets folded down into the cavity, and along the outside edge the cordon gets trimmed off, and the resulting offcut can again be thrown into the cavity or can be used for a small patch somewhere if we need it. One of the key points of this installation is to keep the cordon flat and with as few layers as possible for the bricklayers to go over the top of. So when we put our external corners through, you can see on this one we've kept our cut as far along the edge of this brickwork as we can, while still keeping this section of cordon flat across our bricks. When we bring this piece over the top of it and glue it down, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cut in from the end of our cordon back to the internal corner on this side, keeping our cuts in the cordon quite some distance apart, meaning that there's plenty of cordon underneath and not leaving any entry points. What you can see through this edge is we've got cordon stuck down to the brickwork. We've kept it 2 to 3 mil inside the edge of the brickwork because this section through here is face brick, meaning we don't want the cordon flush with the outside edge. Rendered installations, we bring it further out to the outside edge of the brickwork. Now we're going to patch over the top of the section that we can't reach our cordon to the edge with because of the steel post in the wall. Now even 100 mil here is not going to be wide enough to give us our 50 mil overlap through some of this, so we'll patch it initially and then we'll need to run another small section in over the top of it again at the back of this brickwork to make sure we've got the required overlap. Run some tape through our joins. We've got cordon compressed under our bottom plate, coming right across the cavity with no holes through it. As much as possible, we've left the bricklayers with a flat surface to lay their next course of bricks on. So when we reach our external corner, the first thing we do is we have to lay the cordon flat across the bricks, and we extend it all the way around the corner as far as it will reach while it's still sitting flat across the bricks. Where it starts to turn up the bricks is where we cut back through from the outside end of our cordon into the back corner of our brick, fold the excess down into our cavity and trim off the cordon flush on the outside edge, and then we will stick our top section down over the top of it and repeat the process from the other end, keeping the cordon flat across the top and cutting in where it starts to curl up back to the inside of the bricks, folding the rest of the cordon around into the cavity and taping all our overlaps, and then continuing to stick the cordon down the next wall. Cut the end off this cordon so that it doesn't run past the end of our bricks. Now we're going to glue the full length of a straight run, gluing onto the top surface of the brick and onto the outside edge of the cordon. Keeping an eye out for any taps or pipes or bricks that might be coming out of the wall or lying on the ground as you're walking down the edge of the house. We've made it to a break in our cordon, which was an overlap installed during the installation of the perimeter. So because we need to join the cordon there anyway, that's as far as we glue. Again, anywhere we get to a join in our cordon, be it an external corner or an overlap in our perimeter, is where we stop. Service penetrations coming through the perimeter cavity, we need to cut the cordon from the outside edge back down through the cordon so that it will wrap around that and come out to the outside edge of the brickwork. It's important not to cut too far back because we require our 50 mil overlap at the back of the cordon, meaning if it's cut all the way to the bottom plate, we can't overlap under our perimeter onto the bottom plate. If you need to loosen some of these up to get a bit of movement into the pipe, you can do so. So now with our left hand, we're going to pull the cordon back into the cavity and sit it down, smoothing it on to the top of the brickwork. And then we're going to cut in our top corner, repeating the process from underneath. So where our cordon sits flat across the bricks and then begins to roll up is where we cut through to the back of the brick, fold the excess cordon back into the rebate, and then tape your overlaps. Taping these overlaps gives the glue an extra 15 or 20 seconds to go tacky, which helps when it's sticking down. Try and pull the cordon down against the slab rather than pulling it across the brick, otherwise with wet bricks they can move. We're going to repeat the process from our overlap, continuing to the next break in our cordon. You can see along this brick edge that there's a change in the brickwork where it changes from rendered brick to face brick. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not, so it pays to ask the bricklayer or the builder if there is any part of the house that is rendered, if the whole house is rendered, because it will change the installation. What we've got here is a water pipe coming up through our cavity. It comes through the slab, up behind the brickwork, and then up into the timber frame and through the house. So because we need to bring our cordon all the way to the outside edge of the brickwork, that penetration, that water pipe's going to penetrate through our cordon perimeter. So we need to bring the cordon stage 2 out to the edge of the brickwork, and we need to seal around that penetration to stop termites coming through the hole in the cordon. So we're going to cut open a 50mm collar. We're going to wrap it around the service, bunch it up, but make sure we get a nice overlap through. We're going to take probably 3 zip ties, and we're going to start with one at the base. Doing them up nice and tight against our cordon. We're going to put one through the middle. And then I'm going to grab one more to put at the top of our pipe. We're going to cut the excess off our zip ties. Now we have to make the cordon sit flat across the top of this brickwork again. So we do that by putting some glue all over the back of our cordon. Remembering that excess cordon in the cavity is a good thing. We can pull as much of the cordon collar around to the back of the cavity. That covers all our holes through our cordon. We're going to tape the cordon overlaps. Making sure that the cordon's compressed against our existing piece rather than pulling across the cavity, tarping over the top of it. So when we tape it down, we're actually sticking the two surfaces together. We're not leaving gaps underneath our cordon. That's one. We can take our excess cordon and throw it back into the cavity. When these are hard against the wall frame or the slab edge, might be required to either open up these brackets or nails, whatever's holding it on. That'll allow you to pull the pipe out from the wall, but remember to put it back the way you found it. And those ones are done. All right.